Welcome to my channel. Have you ever held a piece of history in the palm of your hand without even knowing it? That tiny coin jingling in your pocket, tucked away in a drawer, or hiding in an old piggy bank might be more than just small change. Sometimes, it's a whisper from the past, a story of legacy, artistry, and unexpected value. Today, we're diving deep into one such story, the story of the 1980 Roosevelt dime with the Denver Mint mark, known simply to collectors as the 1980 D Roosevelt dime. To most, it's just a 10-cent coin. Ordinary. Ubiquitous. Overlooked. But in the world of numismatics, the study and collection of currency, even the most modest coin can become a treasure. The 1980 D Roosevelt dime is proof of that. And by the end of this video, you'll see how one tiny coin, with a face value of just 10 cents, can reach a collector's price of up to $110. But before we get to that exciting reveal, let's take a journey. A journey through time, metal, and minting, through politics and progress, rarity and reward. Let's explore the untold story behind the dime that's quietly stealing the show. It begins in the years following World War II, with the death of one of America's most iconic presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Roosevelt wasn't just any leader. He was the only U.S. president elected 4 times, guiding the nation through the Great Depression and the vast devastation of World War II. His influence shaped modern America, and when he passed away in April 1945, the nation mourned. His legacy had to be preserved, and what better way to immortalize him than on the nation's coinage? Thus, the Roosevelt dime was born. First minted in 1946, it replaced the Mercury dime, and instantly became part of everyday American life. Sculptor John R. Sinnock was tasked with creating the design, and his vision still lives on in the Roosevelt dimes we use today. On the obverse, we see Roosevelt's profile, stoic and dignified. On the reverse, a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. It's a simple design, but one packed with meaning. Now, fast forward to 1980, a turbulent yet transformative time in American history. Inflation was soaring, the Cold War still raged, and the country was preparing to enter the Reagan era. Coin production, like every other industry, was adapting. The U.S. Mint was already years into producing dimes made not of silver, but a clad composition, copper sandwiched between layers of nickel. That change had come in 1965, when rising silver prices forced the mint to stop producing circulating silver coins. So by 1980, the Roosevelt dime was well established in its modern form. The Denver Mint, designated by the D Mint mark, was one of 3 mints producing dimes that year, alongside Philadelphia and San Francisco. Over 735 million dimes were struck in Denver in 1980. That's a staggering number, and at first glance, it suggests this coin should be anything but rare. But as any seasoned collector knows, rarity isn't just about how many coins were made. It's about how many survived in pristine condition. The vast majority of these coins went into circulation. They were spent at corner stores, dropped into vending machines, used to pay for parking meters and bus fares. They were handled, scratched, dented, worn. And as time passed, most lost their luster. That's where the story of the 1980 D dime begins to change, because a small fraction were never circulated. Some were preserved by collectors. Others were set aside purely by chance. And a precious few exist today in near-perfect condition, what numismatists call mint state. So how does a 10-cent coin reach a value of $110? It all comes down to condition, demand, and certification. Let's break it down. First, the condition. Most dimes you find in circulation, even if they look shiny to the untrained eye, wouldn't make it past an MS-60. They have microabrasions, small scratches, bag marks, or even slight discoloration. To reach MS-66, a dime must have nearly perfect surfaces, sharp details, and brilliant luster. An MS-67 must be even better, almost no flaws visible even under magnification. Now let's dig a little deeper into the physical characteristics of the coin. The 1980 Roosevelt dime, like all modern dimes, weighs 2.27 grams and has a diameter of 17.9 millimeters. It's composed of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, bonded in layers. The edge is reeded, those tiny vertical grooves that serve both as an anti-counterfeiting measure and a nod to traditional coinage. It's a beautifully balanced design, rich with symbolism, and it's been virtually unchanged since 1946. That consistency is part of what makes Roosevelt dimes so collectible. While other coins have undergone redesigns and overhauls, the Roosevelt dime has remained a quiet constant, a tribute to one of the most enduring figures in American history. As we bring our story to a close, let's return to that initial question: what's the real value of a 1980 Roosevelt dime? Well, if it's a well-worn coin from your pocket, it's worth 10 cents. No more, no less. But if you come across one in exceptional condition, brilliant, uncirculated, untouched, it could be worth much more. Certified examples in MS-67 condition have sold for $110, sometimes more depending on the market and the buyer. That's 1,100 times its face value. Not bad for a coin you might otherwise overlook. Let's take a step back in time, back to the tail end of the 20th century. The year was 1998. The world was buzzing with change. Google had just been founded in a small garage, Bill Clinton was serving his second term as president, and the Y2K scare was beginning to cast a faint shadow over the digital horizon. Amidst all of this, something quite ordinary, yet extraordinary in hindsight, was rolling off the presses of the Denver Mint, a small, silver-toned coin known as the Roosevelt dime. At first glance, there was nothing particularly special about it. Just another 10-cent piece. One of millions. But today, one specific 1998 Roosevelt dime, bearing the Denver Mint mark, has become the object of fascination for coin collectors around the country. Not because it was made of precious metal. Not because it was particularly rare in mintage. But because of what it represents, and because of how, under just the right circumstances, it has reached a value of $110, over 1,000 times its face value. But before we dive into the reasons behind its newfound value, let's rewind the clock a little further. To understand the 1998 Roosevelt dime, we must first understand the Roosevelt dime itself. The story begins in 1946, just months after the death of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. Roosevelt had led the country through the darkest days of the Great Depression and the Second World War. But beyond his leadership, he was also closely associated with the fight against polio, a disease that had left him paralyzed from the waist down. Roosevelt helped found the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio by collecting donations one dime at a time. So, it seemed only fitting that when he passed away, the U.S. government chose to honor him on the 10-cent coin. By 1998, this design had already been in circulation for over 50 years. But the numismatic world often teaches us that even ordinary coins, produced in the millions, can sometimes stand out in unexpected ways. The 1998 Roosevelt dime with the Denver Mint mark is one of those cases. The Denver Mint, located in Colorado, is one of the primary coin-producing facilities in the United States. In 1998 alone, it struck over 1.2 billion Roosevelt dimes. That's billion with a B. So, how could a coin from such a massive batch become valuable? The answer, as with many things in numismatics, lies in the details, those tiny, almost invisible quirks and imperfections that make one coin different from the rest. For the 1998 Roosevelt dime, there are a few known varieties and errors that pique the interest of collectors. One involves a repunched mint mark, where the D appears to have been stamped twice, slightly off alignment. Another involves weak strikes, where the design details are not fully formed due to insufficient pressure during minting. And then there's the matter of condition. A coin in average circulated condition may be worth just 10 cents. But a coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS-67 or higher, can fetch serious money. Collectors often ask, why would I pay $110 for a dime? And the answer is simple. Because it's not just a dime anymore. It's a piece of history, a snapshot of a particular year, a testament to craftsmanship and chance. It's the thrill of owning something few others possess. It's the joy of completing a collection, of finding the missing puzzle piece. And for some, it's the hope that the value will continue to rise. There's also an emotional component to collecting. Maybe you were a kid in 1998, saving coins in a jar. Maybe your grandfather gave you a dime from that year. Maybe you just love the idea that something so common could become something so special. That's the magic of numismatics. It transforms the mundane into the magnificent. Let's not forget the role of the internet in all this. In the 1990s, coin collecting was still largely local: coin shops, trade shows, mail-in auctions. But in the 2000s, online platforms like eBay, heritage auctions, and forums like CoinTalk opened up a whole new world. Suddenly, collectors from around the globe could connect, share information, and bid on rare finds. That's when prices for coins like the 1998 D Roosevelt dime really began to climb. Of course, not every 1998 D dime is worth that much. In fact, most aren't. You could search through rolls and rolls of dimes and never find one in MS-68. But that's what makes it special. The rarity isn't in the year, it's in the condition. That's what elevates an ordinary coin to an extraordinary one. If you're wondering how to check your own 1998 D dime, here's what to look for. First, examine the coin under a magnifying glass. Look for strong details, sharp lines in Roosevelt's hair, clear lettering, and a bold mint mark. Gone are the days when only old coins from the 1800s were considered valuable. Today, modern coins in superb condition are just as collectible, and sometimes even more so, because of the challenge in finding them uncirculated. So, after all this, the question remains: why does a 1998 Roosevelt dime with a D mint mark sell for $110? Because it's a perfect storm of history, scarcity, condition, and collector demand. It's not just metal. It's memory. If you've ever dropped a dime into a vending machine or dug one out of your pocket without a second thought, you're not alone. Most of us pass these tiny coins along without realizing that some of them hold stories, mysteries, and even value far beyond their face. Today, we're diving deep into the unassuming 1991 Roosevelt dime with the P mint mark, a coin that might seem like just another piece of pocket change, but that has grown to become a prized possession among collectors. And by the end of this video, you'll understand how a single 10-cent coin could be worth over $100, and why. Let's set the stage. The year is 1991. The Cold War is coming to a quiet end, the Gulf War is underway, and the world is changing rapidly. In the United States, the economy is shifting, technology is starting to peek its head into everyday life, and the U.S. Mint is churning out millions of coins for circulation. Among them is a dime, just 1.35 millimeters thick, 17.91 millimeters in diameter, and weighing in at just 2.27 grams. Small, humble, and usually overlooked. But this dime carries more than just a picture of Franklin D. Roosevelt. It carries history, precision, and in some cases, rarity. Now, let's zoom into 1991, when the U.S. Mint produced millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes. This was not a year known for major design overhauls or striking changes in U.S. coinage. But sometimes, value doesn't come from rarity in design, it comes from small production quirks, collector trends, and condition. The 1991 Roosevelt dime minted in Philadelphia carries the P mint mark, a small letter found just above the date on the obverse. This mint mark tells us where the coin was produced, and in 1991, the Philadelphia Mint struck an enormous number of these dimes, over 1 billion, in fact. To the untrained eye, that might suggest there's nothing special about this coin. But as with many things in life, the devil is in the details. Out of the over 1 billion 1991 P. Roosevelt dimes, only a small fraction have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Most were tossed into pockets, dropped into jars, used at gas stations, or left to tarnish in drawers. Those that remained untouched, especially in MS-67 or higher grade, MS meaning mint state, are incredibly rare. That's because the higher the grade, the fewer coins meet that criteria. And that's what gives them value. In recent auctions, one such 1991 P. Roosevelt dime in MS-67 condition sold for an eye-popping $107. That's right, a coin that was minted by the hundreds of millions, that many people would toss into a Coinstar machine without a second thought, sold for over $100 simply because of its flawless condition. But let's not forget the human side of this story. Every coin has a journey. Maybe this dime sat in a bank roll, untouched since 1991. Maybe someone bought it as part of an uncirculated mint set and kept it sealed in a drawer for decades. Maybe it traveled through time, quietly waiting for someone to notice its perfection. And when it was finally graded, examined under magnification, it was recognized for what it was, a near-perfect survivor in a sea of the ordinary. This particular coin's value isn't just in its grade. It's in its story. It's in the idea that even the most ordinary things, the most overlooked, can, under the right circumstances, become extraordinary. That a 10-cent coin can defy odds, resist wear and tear, and emerge over 30 years later as a collectible treasure. Collectors love stories like this. They love knowing that buried in everyday life, tucked away in a drawer, or forgotten in a jar, there could be a coin worth far more than face value. And the 1991 P. Roosevelt dime is the perfect example. It reminds us to pay attention. To look closely. Because sometimes, value hides in plain sight. You might be wondering now, could you have one of these valuable dimes sitting in your house right now? Could that small coin lying at the bottom of your piggy bank be one of the few in near mint condition? It's possible, especially if it's from a sealed mint set or an original bank roll that hasn't been touched in decades. The best way to find out? Examine your coins. Look for 1991 dimes with a P mint mark. Check their surfaces carefully. Are there scratches? Dings? Wear? Or is the coin pristine, with strong luster and no signs of circulation? If it looks perfect, you might just be holding a small fortune in your hand. Now, let's reflect for a moment. What makes this story so captivating isn't just the coin itself, it's what it represents. In a world where we often overlook the small things, where we rush past the everyday, coins like the 1991 P. Roosevelt dime remind us that value, beauty, and history can hide in the simplest places. That even a 10-cent piece can hold stories, secrets, and surprises. Coins connect us to the past. They pass through countless hands, witness countless lives, and still endure. And in rare cases, they become more than just money, they become treasure. The 1991 Roosevelt dime with the P mint mark is one such treasure, not because it's made of gold or silver, but because it represents the unexpected, a quiet reminder that even the smallest coin can shine brightly. So, the next time you're handed a dime in change, take a second glance. Because that little coin might not just be 10 cents. It might be $107 in the making. Or, more importantly, it might just be a spark.